What are your questions about autism? Should you say autistic or person with autism? We're going to dive deep into this topic today in another episode of Thriving Special Families. I'm your host, Crystal Sanford, and today we have a wonderful special guest, Mr. J.R. Reed. Hi, J.R.
Oh, Mister. I keep looking around for my dad every time somebody calls me Mister. I'm doing good.
Okay, great. I'll just go for JR for the future.
Yeah, I played adult ice hockey for 25 years. I've been called much worse.
Okay, all right. Boy, I bet. Well, for families, if you're joining us in our podcast, then welcome again to Thriving Special Families. If you're joining us live on the video, then feel free to add your comments or questions to the comments section. We'll do our best to answer those along the way today. And lastly, always remember that the information that is shared here is for your informational purposes only. If you are in need of medical or legal advice, please do contact a professional in that area. So again, our topic today is your autism questions answered. So if you have ever had questions around autism or neurodiversity, then we are hopefully going to dive into that and provide you with some answers. Hopefully we will. We're going to do our best. Let me give a great introduction to J.R. Reed. J.R. Reed is an autism advocate who preaches neurodiversity and does it all from a log cabin in the Missouri Ozarks. J.R. blogs, speaks, and writes on a wide variety of topics affecting adults with developmental disabilities. He's spoken to groups, companies, and at the Missouri State Capitol. If you want to find out more about JR, he will share with us about how we can do that. Also, he has some writings that are available, and his website is notweirdjustautistic.com. So, JR, I am just so tickled to have you back. You were a guest of my show in last month, and I'm so glad to have you here again to share from your experience, from your expertise. So, for those who are not familiar with you, tell us a little bit about your story with autism.
Well, when I come on your show, it's kind of like coming home for me because I grew up 2 hours from where you are.
That's so
I grew up in Long Beach, California.
Awesome.
So my story is very unique for what most people have. When I was in school, there was no such thing as autism. Autism wasn't being diagnosed until I turned about 30. So my story is that I was called weird, stupid, and lazy by my teachers. Teachers and family told me that I would never reach my potential or that I couldn't reach my potential. And so it was just a lot of negative growing up. And I think that's what's really brought on as an adult, both anxiety and depression. Just from the environment that I was raised in, and that's one thing that I talk to when I talk to parents. I cannot stress enough that you've got to keep the kids in a positive environment, and that's not just the home environment. That's also school. That's with their friends, with their athletic teams or whatever extracurricular activities they're involved in.
Yes, it's so important to keep kids, inspired and positive and recognizing that, there's beauty in neurodiversity in all of us. And, we all have, unique strengths and challenges.
Right.
So, what happened for you? Tell us a little bit about the moment when you actually were diagnosed as an adult.
Well, I was seeing my psychologist on a weekly basis, and after seeing him for a couple of years, he asked me one session, did I want to look into getting diagnosed for autism? And, it was something I had thought about because I kept wondering, why am I the way I am? Why do I do these quirky, strange things that other people don't do? And why do I have these needs and compulsions that other people don't have? And so I said, yeah, let's do it. And the next week we did the test, and the week after that I got the results, and I walked out of his office, and the first thing that went through my mind was, wow, I'm not weird, just autistic.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. How many countless teens, young adults have felt that same way?
Well, yeah, and I just think of, I'm 55, so I think of anybody in their 40s and 50s right now
Mm-hmm.
that may not have gotten a diagnosis.
Right.
A lot of people self-diagnose, and the way I look at that is, if you've done the research and you've looked into what autism really is, and you believe that you're autistic, that's good enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, again, families, if you're just joining us, welcome again to another episode of Thriving Special Families. I'm your host, Crystal Sanford, and as always, our show is sponsored by Sanford Autism Consulting. If you are in need of advocacy for your child with unique needs in the public school, then feel free to contact us at sdautismhelp.com. So again, our topic today is your autism questions answered, and we have the pleasure to be engaging with J.R. Reed, an autism self-advocate, a speaker, and just really a great advocate and model for the autism community. And we've learned a little bit about your story, about how, given, your age, there was no autism diagnosis per se. And as an adult, you were able to access that. How did that change your life moving forward?
Well, it answered a lot of questions that I had about why I did certain things. For example, I was a freelance writer for 20 years, and I covered the Anaheim Ducks for 13 seasons. And imagine having sensory issues, but not realizing that you had sensory issues, and being in an arena with 18,000 fans and the puck slamming off the boards all the time. I literally had to go outside the arena between every period for 10 minutes or so and just kind of reset my brain. And it answered, questions like that for me.
Wow. I can imagine it just probably changed every aspect of your life. I can imagine.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I mean, yes, I'm weird, but not for reasons of autism.
And that's okay. Isn't there beauty in that?
Yeah.
Yeah. If everybody was the same, life would be very boring.
Yeah. It would.
Well, I want to dive into some of those questions that people may have around autism. Again, if you're watching live, feel free to add those to the comment section. And so one of those questions is, and I hear this a lot because I have a child with autism myself. I've been a speech pathologist for over 20 years. And so I've engaged in this community for a while. And one of the questions is autism, autistic. So would we refer to a person as being autistic or as a person with autism, with more of that, people first language? Which do you prefer?
Politically correct. And when I'm talking to people, I definitely use the people first language and say have autism.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That being said, I prefer autistic.
Wow.
Because when I hear have autism, I automatically think have cancer, have diabetes, have leukemia.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's not what defines me.
Yeah.
All those things define who you are as a person.
Right.
And to me, I'm autistic, just like I have a purple goatee and gray hair and wear bright colors. It's just part of who I am.
Yeah.
But again, when I'm talking to people that I don't know, or when I'm speaking for big groups, I always kind of do the same thing. I'm going to use the word autistic because I'm talking about myself.
Okay.
But if I'm talking about you or to you, I'm going to use have autism until you tell me otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That just keeps me out of trouble.
Well, we want to keep you out of trouble. But I think many people, they want to do what's right. They want to be appropriate and honor, the person. Would you say that it's okay because it is you? You can refer to yourself as autistic, but I
can refer to myself however I want to.
Right. But another person, would you be offended if they refer to you as autistic?
Nope. That's how I look at it. I mean, It's just part of my life and not a life-defining thing.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. It's just a piece of who you are. We've talked about that with my daughter as well. She's 10 now, and for years we've we've been very open about it. I mean, it's my business, it's what I do. And so, we've talked to her about the idea that, mommy wears glasses because I don't see well. That's not a strength for me. For you, social things aren't a strength for you, but your memory is a superpower, so it's just a piece of who you are.
Well, I'm actually working on a book called Autism is My Superpower.
Oh, great. That's going to be great. That's going to be awesome.
We'll see.
Yeah, I bet. And you got to make a kid version because we need more books that kids can read and start to identify with.
It's going to, I mean, not to use the phrase dumb down, but I'm not going to use jargon. I'm not going to use all the medical terms, and I'm going to just talk like I talk now.
Oh, wow. That's going to
So I think anybody that, like your daughter at 10, you said she's very smart. A 10-year-old could probably read the book and understand a lot of it.
Oh, good. Oh, that'll be great. Awesome. Well, parents, keep your eyes open for that book, which will be coming soon. So another question that I have is the puzzle piece. Wow. I've seen debate after debate. And you know what? I don't have mine on today, but I'm totally okay with the puzzle piece. But again, I'm a parent. I'm an ally. I'm not an actual person, on the spectrum. But for me, I'm okay with it. I know that the infinity symbol is another new symbol that's coming out. And if that is a better representation, I'm totally okay with that as well. Whatever is best in honoring people, of autism. But what is your stance?
I hate the puzzle piece.
Oh, okay.
I'll just say it. I hate it. But I will say that at the time it came out, and with the group that brought it out, Autism Speaks, I think was really the group who first made it big. Yeah. At the time, it was great because we were a puzzle. Yeah. People didn't understand autism.
Right.
They knew virtually nothing about it. So the puzzle piece was good at the time.
Yeah.
Now we're not a puzzle. We don't need to be put together piece by piece into somebody else's perfect picture of what somebody with autism is.
Right.
So I'm not a fan of it. That being said, I don't talk down to people who like it. It's your opinion.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, is that I don't like it because it's not a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's your daughter. It's other people's kids who are listening.
Yeah. And we have come very far when it comes to research and understanding, and more people like yourself who are able to speak out and share from your experience so that we're able to learn more from autism, right? For lack of a better word, from the horse's mouth. Now we actually have people who are now adults so we can hear their experience and what it feels like, what it is to be.
And now we have adults that are doctors and researchers that are on the spectrum. That are doing a lot of research along with the neurotypical researchers and doctors. So, we're getting our research and we're learning new things from people on the spectrum.
Yeah. And that's amazing. I think that is huge. And that's so different than what was around, let's say, 30 years ago. So
even 15 years ago.
Right. Very true. Wow.
I mean, it's been 11 years since I was diagnosed, and autism has changed immensely in those 11 years.
For sure. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that change in I want to say, in the mainstream. I know that they're making more attempts. Like I know there's the show, for example, Atypical, and they do their best to employ people with autism and consult. So they're bringing forth an accurate as much possible picture, of autism, for adults. So I feel like
I'll tell you what I really loved as a character is I'm a huge comic book nerd, and that's one of my autistic traits. You get very focused on one or two subjects and you really like it. And I'm a big comic book nerd. And on Netflix, which also does Atypical, in season 2 of The Umbrella Academy, they had a 8 or 10-year-old nonverbal autistic boy. And I will tell you, Crystal, that part had to have been written by somebody who had a nonverbal autistic sibling. That part was so spot on.
Wonderful. Wow. That's great to hear that there are more authentic examples out there now.
Yeah.
All right. So the Umbrella Academy.
The Umbrella Academy.
Okay. And so you guys look out for that. I'm going to be checking that one out myself as well.
Season 2. Season 1 didn't have that character. Season 2 did.
Okay. Season 2. Perfect. All right. So, and then what about the infinity symbol for you? Are you feeling a connection there? And
I do. I like the infinity symbol, but I'm not a big fan of the rainbow infinity symbol, simply because, again, growing up in Long Beach, California, where I did, that's the largest LGBTQ population in California.
Yeah.
So the rainbow has always been an LGBTQ thing, and I was just raised around that.
Yeah.
And to me, we're pretty smart people on the spectrum, and we can do better than copying somebody else's LGBTQ. Right. So I love the infinity symbol. I'd like to see it go a different color.
Okay.
And leave the rainbow. But again, that being said, I don't have a problem with it. Okay. I definitely prefer it to the puzzle piece.
Okay. All right. Great. We've got the infinity symbol. Awesome.
And people that are LGBTQ and autistic, there you go.
Okay. Yeah. That's
an option.
That's an option. Cool. All right. So here is another one of these big autism questions that so many parents, I think, wrestle with. And that is, where did autism come from? Did I do something as a parent? Did I eat something? Did I not do something? Is it my husband's genes? What is, in your perspective?
Well, I'll say this. My dad passed away before I was diagnosed, but my mom, I know, blames herself. She won't admit it, and I've told her 1,000 times she had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
There's not a problem, but I know that she blames herself for it. Where autism comes from, the best answer I've got is a tweet that I saw from another self-advocate and a friend of mine, Lara Coleman's, who's on Twitter as the Neurodivergent Rebel, where she said, vaccinations don't cause autism, sex causes autism. I mean, it's something we're born with. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. There's nothing you can do to make it happen. It's just in your genes.
Wow. That's great. That's very liberating. I can imagine for your mom coming up, there was that generation, right, that was told that it was the refrigerator mom, and it's because something you didn't do in raising your child or something. So and she was born, and she lived up until her about 20 or so in a small town of 300 in Nebraska. And she was born in the late 30s. So you've got just that age and living in a small town in a in a very rural community on a farm, and then like you said, the refrigerator mom syndrome that was going around in the 50s and 60s. Yeah, man. Well, we know now more, and I think so much of that we are learning. It's a lot of it is the genetic piece, like you said. You put two people together, and you can't deny genetics. Something's going to happen, and it could be eye color, or it could be this, that, or it could be autism, and it's just another thing.
And there are families, and I'm sure you know this from the work you do, that will have 3 kids, all are autistic, and possibly a parent. And then you've got families like mine, where I'm the only one who's been diagnosed. And looking back a couple of generations, nobody else in my family showed the symptoms of being autistic. Yeah,
it can be so very different. Even twins, I know twins where maybe both twins are on the spectrum, but are impacted in very different ways. Or I've seen twins where only one is, and so.
Like one of my favorite people to listen to and read is Dr. Stephen Mark Shore, who coined the phrase, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Exactly. That sums it up so perfectly. Each and every person is so very different. I mean, we all are, but again, in specifics to the spectrum, very different. There are autistic traits that are more common and shared among more people, but I don't know another person on the spectrum that's exactly like I am.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And good for us, so that we
Yeah.
get to see the beauty of all different kinds of people. Yeah.
And another thing that you didn't have as a question, but I think a lot of people might wonder this. People look at different places where you fall on the spectrum. You know, there used to be Asperger's, and and different things, and now they've all gone into ASD. But I personally don't think anybody on the spectrum is any better than another person.
That's beautiful.
We all have our job. We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. There's a 12-year-old boy from Florida named Vichy, Vichy, and he is nonverbal and he's an artist. And this kid is amazing.
Beautiful, beautiful. So skilled. It's amazing. What parts of the brain fire so well and you're able to do such wonderful, amazing things. That is not a question that I have, but it is always a question that I see, especially more so lately, is people saying, is it okay? Or what do you say in regards to high functioning autism versus low functioning, or Asperger's, or, how do people define, where someone is on the spectrum, or is there a necessity to do that?
I don't think there's a necessity to do that. I have Asperger's tattooed on my forearm because that was my diagnosis 11 years ago.
Right.
Now would be autism spectrum disorder, but Asperger's is considered a higher functioning, but I don't consider myself any better than anybody who was diagnosed with something that would have been considered lower functioning.
Right.
We're all people. We all have our strengths.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, great. Thank you for sharing. It matters a lot to hear from a person who lives it every day,
Yeah.
So we thank you so much for sharing.
No problem.
Another question, and parents, if you are watching live and have questions, feel free to add those to the comment section. We'll do our best to answer those before we end today. Another question is around adulthood, and as young adults are becoming adults, there is this thought, and there has been discussion around falling off the cliff. And so once a child of any kind who has unique needs and they're in high school, their services are provided for by the school district. And it should be.
I do similar work with you that you do with parents in IEP meetings in Missouri. And I think we both know that a lot of districts do not do what they're supposed to do.
Right. They're not doing it well at all.
And don't care.
Yeah. In many cases. But so falling off the cliff for a young adult who, when they receive their high school diploma or they age out of special education services, which is at age 21, 22, depending on your state, often it is found that they fall off the cliff, meaning they lose access to and almost end up, in not good situations sometimes because of a loss of services. And, then all the onus falls on the parent who may not be informed about services. So tell us a little bit about your experience. I know it was some time ago, but from moving from high school into adulthood, how was that for you?
Oh, it was horrible. Because again, I didn't understand why I didn't get certain things, and why, like, for example, in high school, algebra, I got D- in algebra, even though I got just about every answer right, but it was because I didn't do the work the way the teacher showed it. So therefore it was wrong. And the teacher actually accused me one time of cheating off the kid sitting next to me, and it wasn't one of my better moments, but right in front of the class, I said, "Are you kidding me? He's stupid. He's getting C- and Ds by not getting the right answers.
Right.
Getting the right answers by doing work another way. So how am I cheating off it if I'm getting the answers right?"
Oh my gosh. Such ignorance, really, when it comes.
I formally apologize to that person for calling him stupid.
But in your mind, you were being very honest and very.
I was, I'm a very literal person.
Yes.
I got the answers right. He did not get the answers right. Therefore, I couldn't have been cheating off him.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a piece of this I'm going to tie to what we're going through now with Common Core,
Yeah.
which is another touchy subject. But I think for many of our kids who learn differently, who think differently, Common Core can be a very big struggle because they're forced to not just get an answer, but then show that answer in multiple ways and explain why the answer is so. And I can think back to my daughter who said, Mom, it's some math problem. Mom, the answer is 25. Like, what else do you want me to say? But
Yeah. My daughter's 24 right now. And she was in elementary school when Common Core first started coming out.
Okay.
And I looked at a lot of that stuff that she was just getting right off the bat, and I couldn't understand some of it as an adult.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
it's the way your brain works and processes things.
Yes. And I've talked to adults. I had a conversation with my own physician recently, and she said, I'm a physician. I know, people who are good in math, like this is a thing, right, that we have learned and are good at. And we are, as parents, struggling to teach our kids and help them learn this format of Common Core.
Right.
There's a problem here. Like, we do math for a living. What's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I can imagine for you, and your thinking and being very black and white, it was probably a challenge to think, why do I have to show it another way or do it another way?
It was a huge thing. And because when I went to college, I was a journalism major and I wanted no part of math. But of course, that's not reality. Yeah. So I took statistics simply because it's something that would help me in the journalism field. And I didn't have to do the regular kind of algebra, trigonometry, geometry kind of thing.
That was smart. That was very smart. Did you see yourself having a lot of trouble making that transition to college? Yeah.
Huge. Mm-hmm. It took me 6 years to get an associate's degree. Wow.
Amazing. But you struggled on. I mean, that kudos to you for just continuing to go forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we only have a little time left, and I wanted to talk about one more question, if you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that. I think I know which one it is. So go for it.
So I didn't want to leave here without just touching on this other topic, and it is groups that represent autism. And there are numerous, and I applaud, groups for making an attempt to support the autism community. But are there any groups that you feel represent autism well, that are doing a good job at that?
Well, I think there's a lot of organizations out there that do parts of things well.
Okay.
I think if you could take a lot of organizations and kind of lump them all together and take the good of everything, and then you'd be awesome. Yeah. I do work with a group called Different Brains, differentbrains.org. Yes. They're not specifically autism, they're neurodiversity, but they focus quite a bit on autism. I do have the distinction of being blocked on Twitter by Autism Speaks for repeatedly tweeting Autism Speaks, but not for me.
Oh my.
Yeah. But there's a new group, Spark Research Study, that's come around lately. And I like some of the stuff they're doing.
Okay.
And I like what Different Brains is doing. But, I really follow more of the advocates and self-advocates than groups. Because, like I said, I think Autism Speaks does some things that are really good. There's some things I don't like. You take that, you put them with Different Brains, you put them with different other groups, and you take the best of all of them, and then you'd be great.
Okay. I feel like that's just so true in a lot of different factors and different spaces in life. If we could just, like, we're doing something good here and here and here, if we could put it together, then it might be ideal, right? But
right.
I do, and I agree too. I really appreciate groups that are led by people with autism or parents of children with, where we know it's really authentic, it's coming from life experience.
And that's my problem with Autism Speaks. It took them, I believe it was almost 20 years before they got an autistic board member.
Wow.
And that was Stephen Mark Shore.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So, it was started by grandparents looking for a cure for their grandson, which again, at the time was a valid and legit thing.
Sure.
But as time has progressed and we've learned that there is no cure, I still think they're looking for a cure in some of the projects they have in kind of backdoor roundabout ways, but I don't know.
Okay. And what we've said today is, really promoting neurodiversity. All of our brains are so wonderfully wired differently that that's what we want to celebrate, and that's what we want to put at the forefront.
Yeah. I will say this. I mean, it's technically not an organization, but I think Autism Parenting Magazine does a great job.
Great. Parents, I hope you're hearing these resources and just taking note of things to consider as you are parenting a child with autism. What is out there, what to expect, and really listening to those who are living this experience or have lived it as parents. I think you'll gain a wealth of information, like our special guest here, J.R. Reed.
And that's the one thing I tell parents all the time is listen to self-advocates and listen to parent advocates, because you'll get more positive comments and more positive ideas than you will just talking to the medical community.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to balance that out, or you'll drive yourself crazy.
The medical model focuses on what we can't do, where neurodiversity focuses on what we can do. But the medical model also comes up with a lot of the research. So, I like the research part of the medical model. I don't like the way a lot of doctors and medical professionals talk about people on the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, as we are seeing more young adults grow up, they're going through college, they are themselves becoming professors and doctors and lawyers. Maybe we'll start to see more change.
We will.
Yeah.
I have no doubt, because we already are.
Well, JR, if parents have questions or they'd like to find out more about what you're doing, share with us how we can find out and what's going on for you.
Well, I just 2 weeks ago got certified as a cognitive behavioral therapist.
Oh,
and this week, hopefully, I'll finish my certification for life coaching. I do work with parents in Missouri with a group called the Missouri Parents Act. Go to IEP meetings and help them. And I am speaking at the Autism Parenting Magazine Virtual Summit in September.
Oh, wow. That's going to be a treat. So that's going to be
fun. I'm actually recording that on Monday.
Oh, great.
Oh.
Well, you're busy.
I'm trying to be.
Yeah.
But you know what? I just really, I want to be out there and help people, because I never had that opportunity when I was younger, or my parents didn't have that opportunity when I was younger. So I want to be there and be able to help them. And for adults, there's so many that, like I said earlier, don't get diagnosed or haven't been diagnosed, and I want to be there for them as well.
Wonderful. So can they find out more about you at your website? Or
yep. We're just Autistic has got pretty much everything I'm doing. We were talking earlier, I'm starting a show on the Autism Broadcast Network in a few weeks. Not We're Just Autistic. You can find that there. You can email me there. You can find all my social media links.
Great. Perfect. And that's going to be great. For those, maybe you're not aware, I know through the Roku channel, you can find that Autism Broadcast Network. And so JR is going to have a show there. You'll be able to hear him, whenever you want, on demand. So that's going to be.
The show is going to be, I originally wanted to call it 24 hours in the real world of autism, because I don't want to just scratch the surface. I want to get down to what people are really dealing with on a daily basis.
Oh, that's great.
And you're going to be getting an email once I get my schedule finalized. You're going to be a guest.
It would be my pleasure. It would be my pleasure, because I'm like you. I mean, this is really one of the reasons why I started my business is I know that there are more families out there who who aren't aware. Maybe they suspect their kids on the spectrum, or they're struggling, they're feeling isolated. And so that really was one of the motivations for me to start the work that I'm doing. So I'd be happy to share. It'd be an honor. Thank you so much.
And, I mean, and doing stuff like this is really hard for me a lot of times, because I do have bad social anxiety, but I suck it up and do it because I've got the voice and I can.
Yeah.
So I feel almost like it's a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to, because I can.
Yeah. We thank you for that. We thank you for being a voice for many who are not able to share their experience. And we just look forward to hearing and seeing more of you, out there. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, parents, thank you for enjoying and participating in another episode of Thriving Special Families. And always remember that you're going to be okay, and your child is going to be okay too. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Bye.